Transition from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution. This presentation will cover the transition from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution. I will discuss how the Articles were unsustainable for a growing nation, how the Constitution rose to become America's leading document. I will finally talk about how the Constitution impacted the world forever. The Constitution was vital to the nation's development and will continue to help keep it in the lead. The Articles of Confederation were unsustainable as a guide for a growing nation. Seeking full standing among other countries, the rush to create government for the newly liberated colonies was to allow for the cooperation of the states, yet the Articles of Confederation created more of a conglomeration of sovereign states that lacked any true cohesiveness. Point 1. The control that the Articles of Confederation exercised over the states was severely lacking in any real developmental growth. The Articles in the Constitution, similar nation, different design, an article by the University of Pennsylvania Press, says, the Articles and the Constitution gave the government no real power to enforce taxation or regulate the economy. Point 2. The Articles were written in a rush to fulfill the governmental needs of a fledgling nation, which led to the Articles being incomplete in development. The Articles of Confederation and the Perpetual Union, an article written by the American Bar Association, says, there was a fervent eagerness to reconsider the government and all of its problems. The transition to the Constitution was a very complicated and necessary process. The transition had a good deal of disagreements and struggles, and the transition was a vital part of America's development. If the Articles of Confederation hadn't been removed, our nation would be vastly different. Point 3. The transition to the Constitution was riddled with disagreements that slowed the document. The Constitutional Convention, a book chapter by the University Press of Kentucky, says, Congress reinforced a tendency in all of the states towards fluctuating, ill-considered legislation, which reflected slight regard for either private rights or long-term public needs. Point 4. The Constitutional Convention was vital to the development of America, helping to develop the document that brought America to the top. In the Constitutional Convention, a book chapter by the University of Pennsylvania Press, says, meantime, the apparent prosperity that existed in many parts of the country immediately following the war had gradually worn away. The Constitution is the model of constitutional literature that has influenced the world in many ways. It has been a model for the world since it now influences people in other countries still today. If the Constitution had not been formed, America probably would not exist. Point 5. The American Constitution was almost unprecedented document with very few parallels before the Constitution was written. American Constitutional Exceptionalism Revisited, an article by the Chicago Law Review, says, the U.S. Constitution is the oldest surviving national constitutional document in the world. Point 6. The U.S. Constitution influenced the constitutions of other countries immensely, leading to a revolution of freedom that is still resounding. According to Is the Influence of the Constitution of the U.S. Constitution Declining? A book chapter by the University of Pennsylvania Press says, in several countries, constitutional drafters have copied extensively, and at times verbatim, from the text of the U.S. Constitution. Countless more foreign constitutions have been characterized as this country's constitutional offspring. In conclusion, the transition to the Constitution of the United States is incredibly important to the development of the U.S. The Articles of Confederation were an unsustainable document. The Constitution is a vital document that has changed the course of history forever. I am sure that the world forever appreciate the impact of the Constitution.